Solo, a Star Wars story. I had a really good feeling about this.
What's in the box?
Hello, beautiful.
Okay, so Solo, a Star Wars story. I just said I had a really good feeling about this. And the reason I say that is because back a couple of years ago when we found out Solo was going to be getting made, it was being made by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the same people that did the Lego movie. And that was definitely a fresh of breath air for sure, because the Lego movie was, just something that just came out of the blue. We all loved it. And finally Kathleen Kennedy wanted to take a risk on doing something cool with Star Wars, so they hired Phil Lord and Chris Miller, which I thought was awesome. I had a really good feeling about it. And then the trouble started. Phil Lord and Chris Miller got fired, and enter Ron Howard. And I definitely feel that's where the film fell apart. Solo, a Star Wars story, it's just a heist movie. There really is no Star Wars about it. There's no Force. There's no family connections. There's no feeling of a Star Wars story. When you get home after you watch this film, you don't feel like going to watch other Star Wars films. That being said, I had a lot of fun with this movie. It was a great heist movie as far as film go and action scenes and characters. But as far as a film set in the Star Wars universe, I was disappointed. First of all, it doesn't flesh out Han's character. We know this character as charming, having swagger. In the original trilogy, he was kind of an asshole. I'm better than you. The swagger and the charm's there, but the asshole demeanor is not there. It doesn't come by the end of the movie, and you're kind of wondering where it's at. Also, the film holds Han way too close to the chest. That being said, I feel like everything that they've talked about in the original trilogy, we see on screen, such as the Kessel Run. We know he did that. We know that he has a lifelong debt to Chewbacca. We know that he got the Millennium Falcon from Lando in a card game. That's all stuff that was told to us in the original trilogy. But all it is here is just shown to us. There's nothing new brought to the screen to flesh out Han's character. Rogue One, I'm going to make some comparisons to that. Rogue One was another movie where it was just a side story for Star Wars, but it had mentions of the Force. It had family drama. It added weight to other series in the Star Wars universe, such as A New Hope. When you get home watching a Solo, you don't want to go watch another Star Wars movie. It doesn't feel like that type of movie. It's definitely not a Star Wars movie. It's just a heist film, which it's a good film, but not a good Star Wars film. Another thing that's critical with a Star Wars film is it has no villain. The villain is basically just time. It wants you to believe that, the guy from Vision from Avengers is the villain. Paul Bentley is the villain, but he's only in there for a couple scenes. He's good, but he's not the true villain. The true villain is time. When have you seen a Star Wars movie where the villain is actually time? Never have. Rogue One actually had weight to other Star Wars stories that made it feel important to the canon of the whole. Star Wars Solo, Star Wars story just does not do that. Now the pros, I will say there are some pros in there. The meeting between Chewie and Han Solo is amazing. It's the best part of the movie. It happens in the first act. The first act of the movie is the best by far. After that, the second act is just slow. Ron Howard taking over from Phil Lord and Chris Miller is where it fell apart, because Woody Harrelson is a comedic actor. Yes, he's good in other things like Three Billboards, but he's a comedic actor, and he was hired by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and you can see why. Now, when Ron Howard takes over, it's kind of more of a drama, more of a slow moving action set pieces. They're good, but they're not great, and it just kind of feels like, what are we doing? What's going on here? Let's get going. But what I can say though, like I said, is Chewie and Han are awesome. Lando, Donald Glover as Lando is killer. He's really good. Hopefully something comes out of that. And the action set pieces are awesome. The train in particular is very, very cool. And the chemistry between the two leads, Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones, which you guys know, the dragon rider. She's good with Han, but, I'm sorry. I am a positive person. I love movies. I love seeing spectacle, which this has, but it doesn't have any weight. That's the problem. It has no weight at the end. I had a great time, but I will say that I'm going to go ahead and give Solo, a Star Wars story, a 7. Now, if it would have been just a heist movie with another name not contributed with Star Wars, it might have been, maybe an 8. But if I want to see a Star Wars movie, I need to have some family drama. I need to have at least some mentions of the Force. I know it's a side story, but Rogue One did it, and they did it great. So I wish Phil Lord and Chris Miller were the ones that continued to see through their vision, and they did not. Unfortunately, Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm needs to do a better job because she hired the right people to do the job, but they didn't get to finish their vision, and that just makes me very disappointed. So, like I said, Solo, a Star Wars story, 7 out of 10. People will like it. I just didn't like it as much as I wanted to, which is disappointing, but it was a fun movie. You guys, thank you very much for hanging with Ball. If you like what you heard or love what you see, subscribe. It's free. And thank you very much. Stay around it, folks. Take it easy.